Today, James Hirst assesses the options and implications for the army.
In the 1970s and 80s, Britain's army was focused on the home front, tackling the troubles in Northern Ireland, but ever alert to the overseas threats from the Cold War. In the 90s, that all changed. Since then, there have been 2 wars to fight in Iraq and another in Afghanistan. There's been peacemaking in Sierra Leone, peacekeeping in the Balkans, and still the occasional national emergency to deal with in Britain. Some of it they've had to do, some of it the government's chosen for them. The choice now is how much they can do in the future. The British Army is nothing if not versatile. Some of the soldiers seen on ceremonial guard in central London this year have also served in Afghanistan in the last 12 months. That kind of versatility is going to be key in the Army's future, with personnel cuts looking a very likely possibility.
Essentially, at the moment, we have an army of 100,000 troops. We probably can't afford that in the long term. And so the dilemma for the army is that those numbers have to be maintained in order to maintain the numbers in Afghanistan. But in the long term, army numbers will probably have to fall.
British combat operations in Afghanistan are expected to last around 5 more years. But on a recent visit, the Armed Forces Minister made clear he thought Afghanistan, or perhaps similar future overseas operations, could be done with fewer personnel without overstretching those who serve.
It's very much the case that some of our armed forces have suffered the impact of overstretch because we've been going back to the same units again and again and again to come out to Iraq and Afghanistan. And as we look to the future, we've got to try and get a better match between the shape of our armed forces and the tasks that we have for them.
While big savings in the RAF and Navy could come from cutting expensive equipment projects, the Army's equipment tends to be driven by numbers of boots on the ground. There is the FRES vehicle programme, designed to equip ahead of possible future conflicts. That might be assessed against vehicles like Mastiff, newly bought as urgent requirements in Afghanistan.
If you said to me, would I accept a reduction in, say, armoured vehicles or artillery pieces or endless sets of computers, the answer is yes. But manpower is the one thing that this country excels in.
The Defence Secretary has already said he wants to save money by cutting numbers in the very top ranks across all 3 services. In opposition, Liam Fox also spoke about pulling British forces out of Germany. Saving money by that kind of restructuring might help politically with the case for any reduction of frontline forces.
My view is that the axe has got to fall on the bloated, over-headquartered armed forces that we have at the moment. We seem to be able to produce very little fighting power and an awful lot of talking power. Now, what are the armed forces for?
Reserve forces have been key in Iraq and Afghanistan. They'll be assessed as part of this review too. Reducing them would save some money, but making them larger might help build flexibility for the future more cheaply with smaller full-time services. The decisions are not easy. They will affect how Britain works with the rest of the world for decades to come. But they will be made over the next few weeks. James Hirst, Forces News, Central London.